Hey class, Mr. Andrew here. For today's lesson, we're going to be taking a look at section 6.2, which is going to deal with point-slope form. So yesterday we talked about slope-intercept, the y equals mx plus b. Today we're going to take a look at point-slope, which is just another form of writing linear equations. So we have one learning goal for today, and it's just simply you will be able to write a linear equation in point-slope form. And that's what we'll take a look at today. So point-slope form states this, that the line with slope m that contains the points x1, y1 can be described by the equation y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And that is slope-intercept, or point-slope, sorry. And that is going to be the form we write equations in today. So point-slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So all you need today is you need a slope, your m, and one point that the line contains. So we're going to take a look at that today, and we're going to go through and write different equations relating to that right there. So let's go ahead and get into example 1, where it's going to ask us to write an equation in point-slope form for each line. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up so we can go ahead and talk about it. And I'm going to rewrite our equation, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So all we need for each of these problems is we need to know our slope, and we need to know our x1, y1. Alright, for example 1a, they state that the slope is 6 and that the point 1, 2 is on the line. So they tell me my slope, which is m, and then they tell me the point 1, 2 is on the line. So that means this is my x1, y1. So unlike yesterday when we dealt with slope-intercept, for point-slope we want to consider that as our x1, y1. Alright, so now that I have my slope and my x1, y1, let's go ahead and plug in the stuff for the equation, which is y minus y1, so 2, equals m, which is 6, times x minus x1, which is 1. Alright, so now we have everything plugged in, and that is in fact our answer. So that is all we have to do for example 1a. So if they give you your slope and they give you a point, all you have to do is plug in your m, plug in your point, your x1, y1, and you are done. So if they simply give you a slope and a point, it is as simple as just plugging in your m, your x1, your y1, and you're good to go. That's that. So if you want, we'll go ahead and take a look at a few others just to highlight some other things, and then we'll move on to example 2. So if we look at B, they tell us our slope is negative 3.5, so this is my m. They tell me my point is negative 3, 2, so this is my x1, y1, and that is on the line. So what I'm going to do is take m and my x1, y1, plug it in for m, y1, x1. So if I do that, I end up with y minus 2 is going to equal negative 3.5 times x minus a negative 3. Now, I need to simplify this because I have minus and negative, which results in addition. So this ends up being y minus 2 equals negative 3.5 times x plus 3. And that is our answer. And that is how you do example 1. So example 1 is just simply taking your slope and your point and just plugging it into each of the equations. So you would do the same thing with C and D, where you just take your M, you take your x1 and your y1, take your M, your x1 and your y1, and you just plug it into this y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I will leave parts C and D for you to run through and do on your own if you'd like a little bit of practice. If you have any questions, you can always take a look at my completed notes or just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to answer or guide you through those parts. So I'm leaving C and D for you. Take a look at the completed notes to see if you have it correct. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to example 2, which is going to ask us to write an equation in point-slope form and then solve the problem using point-slope form. All right, for part A, they state, Paul wants to place an ad in a newspaper. The newspaper charges $10 for the first 2 lines of text and $3 for each additional line of text. Paul's ad is 8 inches long. What is the cost of the ad? Now, when we are going through and doing this, okay, because we're doing a point slope, we have to identify a point from the problem. So a situation when how many lines costs a certain amount, and then slope is going to be a rate of change, how much per something, how much per line, how much per month, or whatever it may be. So if we read through this, we have a newspaper charges $10 for the first 2 lines. So this is going to be our point, that for the first 2 lines it costs $10. So our first point is going to be at 2, 10. And then it talks about $3 for each additional line of text. So this $3 for each additional line of text is going to be my M. It's going to be my rate of change. So I now have my x1, y1, and my m. So the first thing is to go through and write our equation. That's me y minus 10 equals 3 times x minus 2. So I'm just using our slope-intercept form to go through and write this equation. So that's the first part. Now the next part asks, if Paul's ad is 8 inches long, what is the cost of the ad? So what I'm going to do is take this 8 and I'm going to plug it in for x. And when I go through and solve for y, that's going to tell me how much the ad cost. So if I plug it in, we get y minus 10 equals 3 times 8 minus 2. Now, my first step in solving this is I'm going to go through and do this 3 times 8 minus 2. I'm going to go through and solve that part first. So if I go through and solve that part first, we use our calculator, we're going to do 3 times 8 minus 2, which is going to result in 18. So my next step is we have y equals, or y minus 10 equals 18. Now I need to solve for y, so that means I need to get y alone. So if it's subtracting 10, that means I need to add 10 to the right to solve. So if I do 18 plus 10, we get y equal 28. That means it costs $28 for an ad that's 8 lines long. And that is our answer. So that is how we're going to do example 2 for both parts A, B, and C, just depending on the situation. So identify a point at situation where it tells you at this time it costs this much, or at this time they have done this much. And then you're going to take the other number that's going to give you your rate. You're going to use that as your slope. Plug everything into the equation. Take the situation they want you to solve for, and go from there. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at part B just to give us more practice with this. All right, for part B, we have Claire purchases a gym membership. She pays a She pays a sign-up fee and a monthly fee of $11. After 4 months, she has paid a total of $59. We need to use the point slope form to find the sign-up fee. All right, so our situation states that she pays a sign-up fee and she also pays a monthly fee of $11. So each month she is paying $11. So that is our rate. And then it tells us at 4 months she has paid a total of $59. So that means that's our point, that at 4 months she has paid $59. So I now have my slope. I have my x1, y1, so we're going to go through and write our equation. Remember, it's y minus y1, so y minus 59 equals m, which is 11, times x minus x1, which in this case is 4. Now, the problem asks us to figure out what the startup fee is. So, to figure out our startup fee, the startup fee is going to be when she just initially starts. That means that she hasn't even started any months. So it's not like she's paid for 1 month. We just want to know the startup fee. So this is before she's paid for 1 month. So that means I'm going to plug 0 because it's the initial, it's the before. So it would be 0 months. So we're going to do 0 minus 4. All right, so again, I'm going to go through and solve this right side right here first. So we're going to take 11 times 0 minus 4, and I end up with negative 44. So I have y minus 59 equals negative 44. And then I need to add this 59 over to figure out what my startup fee is. So if I add 59, I end up with 15 for what y equals. So that means my startup fee or my sign-up fee is $15. Again, the reason I plugged 0 in for x is because I wanted to know what the sign-up fee was. Sign-up fee implies before you've ever paid for any months, so you've paid for 0 months. So that means we're going to take 0 and plug that in and figure out what our startup fee is. Okay, and then last one for part, or example 2, is going to be C, where we have Brittany is reading a 310-page book at a rate of 25 pages per day. We're going to use point slope form to determine how many pages she will have left after reading the book for 10 days. Now, we have a 310-page book that she's reading at a rate of 25 pages per day. So 25 pages per day, that means my M is going to be 25. And then I have to figure out what my point is going to be. Now, she's reading a 310-page book. That means before she even starts reading, she starts at 310 pages. So that means before she's read any days, so 0, she has 310 pages left. So that is going to be our point. And now that we have our point, we can write our equation, which again is y minus y1, so y minus 310 equals m, which is 25, times x minus x1, which in this case is 0. So now that I have my point slope, it wants to know after 10 days how many pages are left. So that means I'm going to plug 10 in for x. So we have y minus 310 equals 25 times 10 minus 0. Now I'm going to go through and solve this side first. Now, real quick, I can do this without a calculator. 10 minus 0 is 10, and 25 times 10 is going to be 250. And I actually made a slight mistake that we're going to quickly correct. If she's reading the book at a rate of 25 pages per day, and she starts at 310, that means the amount of pages she has left to read goes down. So really our m should be a negative 25 because we're decreasing how many pages. So that means this needs to be negative 25, this as well. So it means this is going to be negative 250. So my mistake that I forgot to include that at first. Again, the reason why it should be a negative 25, thus resulting in negative 250, is because she starts at 310 pages. In each day she reads 25, so it goes down. If we're writing pages, it would go up, but because she's reading, she's decreasing how many are left. So I have y equals negative 310, or y minus 310 equals negative 250. So I need to add this 310 over here. So we're going to take negative 250 plus 310, and we end up with 60 for our result. So that means after 10 days, she has read, or she has 60 pages left. So after we added the 310, we got y to equal 60, and it wanted to know how many pages are left. Well, since we got 60, that means there are 60 pages left to read after 10 days of reading. All right, so that is how we do example 2, using point slope to go through and write an equation based off a situation, and then to go through and solve. Now, example 3 is going to have us go through again and write an equation in point slope form for each line. Now, the difference with example 3 with example 1 is that for example 3, they don't tell us our slope. They just tell us 2 points. So, what we're going to have to do is we're going to take our 2 points, we're going to find the slope between these 2 points, and then we're just going to choose one of the points to plug in. So again, going back to section 5.3, we're going to use our slope formula, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to use that equation to go through and figure out our slope, and then we can plug in our information. So, first thing, let's figure out our slope. Well, I know my x1, y1 is 2, 1, and my x2, y2 is 3, 4. So they want us to write an equation of a line that passes through 2, 1 and 3, 4. So with that said, let's go and find our slope first. So we're going to do m equals, it's y2 minus y1, so it's going to be 4 minus 1 over x2 minus x1, so it's going to be 3 minus 2. Just like we have done with slope all the way up to this point, we're going to simplify the top. So we get 3, simplify the bottom, and we get 1. So that means my slope is going to be 3. So I've now identified my m. I now just have to go through and take my m, plug it in, and then take a set of points for my x1, y1. Now, if I went based off what I identified, I would use 2, 1. So if I go through and write this, it would be y minus y1, which is 1, equals m, which is 3, times x minus x1, which is 2. So I would get a result of y minus 1 equals 3 times x minus 2. Now, something I do want to address. I am given another set of points. It does not matter whether you use 2, 1 to plug in for your x1, y1, or if you use 3 and 4 for your x1, y1. So my answer could also be y minus 4 equals 3 times x minus 3. So it doesn't matter what set of points you use after you have figured out your slope. So your first key is to find your slope, like we did here, using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We found our slope. Okay, the slope stays the same, but it doesn't matter which set of points you use. You can use 2, 1, or you can use 3, 4. The homework accepts both answers, and both answers are correct. So don't feel like you have to use one set or the other. They are both, in fact, correct. Okay, so that's really what parts B, C, and D are for. It's just more practice of that. I will run through one more incomplete, and then I'll leave the other two for you. Let's go ahead and let's move on down, so that way we have a little more space. All right, so I will leave part B for you to do. Remember, find your slope, and then plug your points in. So if we take a look, let's do one that's a little more fun. Let's take a look at D. So for D, they state that the line passes through 1, 1 and 7, 2. So that's going to be my x1, y1, my x2, y2. All right, so now that I have identified my x1, y1, my x2, y2, your first step when they give you 2 points is to always find your slope first. So we're going to find our slope, which is m equals, it's going to be y2 minus y1, so 2 minus 1, over x2 minus x1, so 7 minus 1. Simplify on top, so I get 1. Simplify on the bottom, I get 6. And 1/6 is going to be my slope for this problem. So now that I have my slope, what we need to then go through and do is plug in my slope in one of my points to get our equation. So if we're following, and I'll keep this here so we can reference, the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. If I go through, I have y minus y1 equals m, which is 1/6, times x minus x1, it's 1. So I get y minus 1 equals 1/6 times x minus x1. Or I could have this written as y minus 2 equals 1/6 times x minus 7. And that would be the other way that we can go through and write this. So either way is a correct answer. It's just a matter of preference. If you want to use the first points, you can. If you like the second points for a certain reason, they work just the same. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to leave parts B and C for you to do. Okay, just like we did for A and D, identify your slope first. Once you have your slope, you just plug everything in, like we did with example 1. So I know at first you may be thinking, okay, it's more work, it's more difficult. You just have to find your slope, and once you have your slope, plug everything in and you're good to go. All right, so that is it for example 3. We have one example left, and that is example 4. And example 4 is going to ask us to use the information provided to write an equation in point-slope form, and then use it to answer the question. Now, if we look at example 4, part A, they state a water tank is being filled at a constant rate. The depth of the water is a function of the number of minutes in the tank has been filled, as shown in the table. Find the depth of the water 1/2 hour after filling begins. So we're going to keep that 1/2 hour in mind. So they give us a table of time 0, 10, 15, and then the depth of the water that it's been filling at 3 feet, 5 feet, and then 6 feet. Now, to do these problems, the first thing that you need to go through and do is to figure out your slope. If they don't tell you your rate of change, you have to go through and find your slope first. So that means we're going to take m equals, we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to use this as my x1, y1, and my x2, y2. So we're going to do y2 minus y1, so 5 minus 3, over x2 minus x1, so 10 minus 0. So if I go through and simplify, 5 minus 3 is 2, 10 minus 0 is 10. So I have 2 over 10, sorry, and that's going to simplify down to 1/5. So this is going to be my slope, or my rate of change. Now I need to write an equation in point-slope form, given this situation and given the information I know. Well, I know my slope, and I know one of my points now, so I can use that information to go through and write an equation. So this is going to be y minus, and I'm going to use my x1, y1, so it's y minus 3 is going to equal 1/5 times x minus 0, just like such. So now that I have my equation, it wants to know after 1/2 hour how much water, or what is the depth of the water after it begins filling. So because I now know that information, okay, what I'm going to do, this means 30 minutes, because a half hour is 30 minutes. So we're going to plug 30 in to our equation for x. So we have y minus 3 equals 1/5 times 30 minus 0. Now, if I go through and solve, we would plug 1/5 times 30 minus 3 into our calculator. We get y minus 3 equals 6. If I add the 3, 6 plus 3 is 9. So I get y to equal 9. So that means after 1/2 hour, the depth is 9 feet. And that is how you do example 4, part A. Now, part B is a very similar type of setup. It's just they give you a graph instead of a table. They tell you the 2 points, so you need to go through and find your slope. Use one of the points, and you're going to plug it into your slope-intercept, and then you're going to plug 22 in for x, and then that will give you your answer. Now, I'm going to leave part B for you to run through and do on your own if you would like, just to give you some more practice. If you would like to see how it's done, it is done on my completed notes, or you can always send me an email if you have any questions. Alright, so that is it for section 6.2, which deals with point-slope form. I hope the video has been helpful and that you feel good about this. If you have any questions, as always, you can let me know or shoot me an email. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later.